So, get some crap set up here. Let's make sure everything's all set up the way it needs to be. Alright. So, I do, you know what? I had a few comments on the show last week. I'll bring it up to the show, but I have my own thoughts on the state of theaters at the moment, and two corrections. Nothing big. Mainly, there is, as far as I know, no Alamo, Texas. The Alamo Draft House is in Austin. And home theaters. Cardy's right. You can actually get a home theater pretty cheap. However, the price tag, he kind of hit it with this kind of a low ball. For a decent home theater, you're probably going to spend a few grand. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of money. But the rule of thumb is you spend double on sound whatever you spend on video. So if you get a $1,000 projector, you're probably going to spend about $2,000 on sound. Personally, I do not go for the home theater in a box machines. The home theater in a box comes with speakers and a receiver and all that other stuff. Yeah, don't do that. Don't. You're just going to be sad and, quite frankly, probably pissed off a bit. I hate those things. They are pieces of shit. I do not recommend them. Now, have I had one? Sure. I've used them. I mean, at the time, I was, poor, didn't really have money, and really wanted a surround sound system. In that case, a nice theater in a box comes in handy. I think Cardy actually uses one himself. But I do not recommend it if you are actually trying to create an actual home theater. If you have a small TV or like a 45-inch TV and just want surround sound, they're fine. But if you're going to be buying a $1,000 projector and a screen, you're going to want a actual separate system. So what I would recommend buying is a decent receiver. My preferred brands are Denon, Pioneer, and Yamaha. Of course, you can also go like Marantz, which is Denon high-end. Pioneer Elites, but those are a bit overkill for this price range. I am a fan of Denon. I have a Denon myself. You can probably see in the back over there. If I maneuver right. Nah, you can't see it. Yeah, I actually have a Denon myself. I love it. Speakers. It's all about personal taste. Personally, I am a Klipsch guy. Klipsh. Have been for many, many, many years. Some people don't like them because Klipsch is not the best at reproduction per se, or it's not as accurate. This means that there is some modification to the sound when it's produced. Mainly, it is louder. Denon uses horns. It is a horn-driven system, so usually you get a bit more bass. So it just sounds more voluminous. So it's not they are not the most accurate, but they are they are, in my opinion, they make it more lively. Hence why I like Klipsch and their horn-driven line. Now, the reference speaker is pretty accurate. I mean, they're very, very good speakers. I am by no means would ever diss Klipsch. There are other brands as well that are fairly well. Axiom is fairly well. You can get those off the internet, as well as some other brands. However, definitive. I've heard them; they're not bad. There's always the mainstays like Polk. Polk's not exactly a high-end name anymore. Neither is Pioneer does sell speakers. I don't recommend them though; they're not very good. Go to Best Buy, listen to what they have in their Magnolia section in the back, and determine what sounds best. That's really the best thing to do. They're fairly unbiased in there, so I would go that route. Don't go in there looking at projectors though. Mainly because they don't only have usually two on display, and they're usually not the best representations of what you can get for the price. They don't usually have the cheaper projectors. They usually have mid-range. They're like $2,500 or so. they don't usually put like the sub $1,000 or the sub $1,500 projectors on display. For projectors, if you really want a projector, I do recommend that you look at my personal favorite is the BenQ W1070. Now, they do have an upgraded version called the W1075 that has came out, but it's actually pretty much the same projector with MHL added. MHL is the you can power like a the Google Play sticks without actually having to hook up the power cord. It's a cool little feature, but I'm not exactly, need it, because if you're using a receiver, you don't need it. So I think it's not exact, and it's also got wireless HDMI, which, to be fair, if you want that, then go for it. So I'm not going to hold you to that. And it looks like Cardi's talking in the Twitch chat, and I'm not paying attention. Yes. He's saying, Cardi's in there. He's saying that his home theater in a box sounds awesome. Yeah, it's okay, but I mean, I would not recommend it. Back on projector real quick. There are 3 types of projectors that exist. There is the DLP, digital light projector or processor. The mirrors, you've seen those commercials, I'm sure. Many cinemas use those. Actually, pretty much all cinemas, the actual big theaters, use DLP projectors. They use 3-chip DLP projectors. DLP projectors that you usually buy in the stores are 1-chip. They actually have a wheel that spins to produce the colors. The drawback of that is it can produce a rainbow effect that some people can see, which dissuades many from using DLP projectors. However, do not let that deter you from getting one, in my mind. If you are a gamer, you must use a DLP. DLP are the only projectors that can get some super low lag time. In other words, there's lag time between when your device creates the image and when it gets displayed. Some are fairly high. Some 30, 40, 50, 60 milliseconds. That's insane. That equates to like ping, like a 60 ping. I mean, that's insane. If you're getting a 60 ms lag, you're losing like quite a bit. DLPs can be in the low 20s, some even lower. So that's why I recommend, if you're a gamer and you're going to be gaming on it, get a DLP. If you're not going to be gaming on it, there are other options. There is it's a higher end. Yeah, it doesn't matter what high end you go with there, Cardi. It's a home theater in a box is a home theater in a box. There is no such thing as a high end home theater in a box. Now, there are some really good ones. There are. But I mean, if you're in your bedroom, if you're in a bedroom or in a small apartment, get a home theater in a box. Seriously, if you're in a house and you have a living room, don't go that route. Anyways, DLP projectors, LCD projectors are the second most common type of projector that most people use. These use LCD. They're LCD. They use a LCD panel or little transparent LCD panels inside of them to produce the image. The thing about the LCD is they actually use 3, which gets separated into red, blue, and green. So you don't have to worry about the color wheel, because each color has its own deal. Each color is separated, and it's converged upon. Now, the downside to LCD is mainly that, one, it's not as film-like in my mind as DLP. DLP creates a much smoother and much better, more film-like appearance. DLP does have motion blur issues and does have jitter issues, which you see with LCD panels that exist with projectors as well. But they are very good projectors, and I do recommend them if you have a severe issue with the rainbow effect. They are comparably priced to the DLP projectors. They're usually around, you can get a good one for about $1,000. Epson make some that are really outstanding. I think it's the 2030. There's a new one out now that I forgot the model number. That's really, really good. I think it's a 330. They're really, really good. I was actually on the fence between that and the BenQ. I chose the BenQ because my wife said DLP or nothing. So she likes DLP. So I actually like the LCDs. I have nothing really against them other than the fact they do have a much higher input lag. It is not recommended if you play FPSs. You will die a lot, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can turn off every processing feature under the sun on those things, and you still won't be able to get them as low as a good DLP projector. The in-between DLP and LCD is the LCOS. LCOS are liquid crystal on silicon. What those are is DLP or DLP-like chips. They use mirrors, but instead of mirrors, it's a liquid crystal on the chip itself that is reflecting the light. These are probably, in my mind, right now, the best projectors. They can work very well for gaming. They produce an outstanding image, but they'll cost you quite a bit. The best ones usually can cost about $2,500 to $3,000, and for the best tier, they usually cost somewhere around about $5,000 to $10,000. But these are the JVCs. These are they call them the DLAs. Sony also uses these. They call them the XLRs, I think they're called. That's actually this, or not XLR. I forgot what their technology is, but it's the same damn thing. But if you don't have, money is no object in terms of $10,000. If money is not really that big of an issue with you, and you have the room for it, especially, it has to be dark. LCOS are not light cannons. Just so you know, light cannons mean they produce a tremendous amount of light. Now, the reason why LCOS are not is because they are designed to produce a more accurate image, to give you really deep blacks and really good, and a really good, rich picture. Because of that, you have to sacrifice with light output. It has to happen. It's necessary. You like DLP. My DLP projector is a light cannon. Seriously, you can stand in the room with the lights on and still make it a pretty decent picture. But the problem with that is I cannot get really deep, really deep blacks. Now the blacks are good. They are very good, but they are nowhere near what I would get with a LCOS or some DLP or some LCD projectors. It's a trade-off. But I have a room where I cannot completely darken the room, so other than when it's completely dark out, those blacks would just, the extra black level, the extra contrast in those projectors just wouldn't be worth it. So if you're in a living room situation where you're going to be in your living room, not in a actual like man cave or in some sort of, darkened room, sacrifice the black levels and get a decent projector that can withstand the ambient light, like a DLP, projector or a LCD projector that can compensate as well. Now, DLPs, in my mind, can produce better blacks levels than the LCDs can for the most part, but again, the rainbow effect can be the downside. So if you plan on getting a projector, find some with a DLP and go look at it. If you can't see the rainbows, don't worry about it. If you're slightly noticeable, don't worry about it. You're really only going to notice them whenever it goes from white to black really fast, or you dart your eyes across the screen, and you don't really do that too much. And no, I'm not being racist against blacks. Excuse me. But I would highly recommend you consider the DLPs. To me, those are the best picture quality in terms of actually looking like you get in a theater and having the best performance when it comes to gaming. Otherwise, if you're on a budget, go with an LCD, preferably an Epson or a Panasonic. Those are probably the two best brands in my mind. DLP, you're looking at BenQ or Optoma. BenQs, in my mind, are better than the Optomas. They usually are rated somewhat better, but the Optomas usually are a little cheaper and can put out some more light. But the black levels usually are not as good as the BenQs. For LCOS, if you're going to be looking at an LCOS, I would look at either JVC or Sony. They make probably, in my mind, JVC and Sony do make the best projectors outside of, unless you want to go to like the $20,000 3-chip DLP route with like Christie's or Runco or one of those guys, where you're going to be spending more money than, you know, most people make in a year, because those things cost about $20,000, $25,000, $40,000. Now, there is something really cool I did see recently I saw recently on a projector that Epson's putting out, is a laser LCD. It actually doesn't use an actual, it doesn't use a lamp. They usually use halogen lamps, but this one doesn't. This one uses lasers. Yes, to actually produce the image. And the image, from what I heard, is outstanding. Now, again, this is a man cave type scenario device. It is not designed for ambient light because lasers are not that bright, but it produces some of the best images I heard that you can get out of pretty much any projector out there right now for that budget range. And that's only about $6,000, which you may be like, whoa, $6,000 for TV. Consider there are projectors that are twice that amount that probably aren't as that have as good a picture. That's pretty amazing. The only thing is, Epson touts it as a 4K projector, but it's not 4K, so beware of that if you look at a projector. Currently, the only 4K on the market really is a Sony. The others are faux 4K. What they do is they use a 1080p chip, and what they'll do is they'll do this like pixel shifting, so it will simulate a 4K picture by using a 1080p chip and producing the image in a higher resolution by like duplicating the image. It's a little more technical than that, but that's the basics of it. It's not 4K. It's near 4K, but they still call it 4K. Yeah, don't lie, Epson, and don't lie, JVC. That's not 4K. I kind of held off myself getting a 4K projector, so I wanted a 1080p. But the good thing about a projector, though, is if you get a really good screen, I'd recommend Stewart. They're fairly well priced, or Elite if you're really on a budget. Mine is a Snap AV, but I got it from a friend, and it's a Stewart Simulate or Stewart equivalent, and it is a great projector. I prefer the Greyhawks. They are very good. If you get a gray screen, by the way, for a projector, it helps with the black levels. Definitely recommended that the projector you're getting is in a living room to compensate for the lack of blacks, or for the lack or the abundance of light to compensate for the lack of darkness. In any case, so that's my rambling for projectors. We're probably going to do a whole episode on these in the future. So I see Mario and Cardi are in the chat room, so we're going to be starting here in about 10 minutes. I'm going to go get me a soda because I will be coughing like crazy if I don't have one. So I'll be back in about 5 minutes.